Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri. Wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Since we have Nibras now online, we can start. Everybody is here. It means, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will inshallah continue from the 20th letter. Again, the 20th letter, and this is about this prayer, which goes like Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu, yuhyi wa yumitu wa huwa hayyun la yamutu, biyadihil hayru wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir wa ilayhil masir. And according to author divides this into 11, let's say, phrases, and studies them one by one. And last week we had the opening discussion. Rafsanjani, your mic is on. If you like to say something, please go ahead. Otherwise, I will mute you. Okay. No worries. Like, I don't mind at all. Just, I don't want to miss anything you want to say. Okay. Let me read this intro paragraph, and then we will continue with the first phrase. Last week we started with the La ilaha part. Inshallah, we will continue with the La ilaha. So I like to become a little bit more practical. And what I mean with this, we can try to see how La ilaha illallah operates, like how we can use it in our lives. Okay? And let me first read the introduction so that I have excuse to make you read other parts. This sentence expressing divine unity, which is recited following the morning and evening prayers, so Fajr and Maghrib, possesses numerous merits, and according to an authentic narration, bears the degree of the greatest name. It consists of 11 phrases, each of which conveys both some good tidings and the degree in the unity of dominicality, Tawhid al-Rububiyyah, and an aspect of the grandeur and perfection of divine unity from the point of view of a greatest name. Referring a full explanation of these vast, elevated truths to other parts of the Risale-i Nur. So in the other parts of the Risale-i Nur, like the words, for instance, the book that we've been studying before, he says, you can find the details, but here, in fulfillment of a promise, we shall for now write a brief index-like summary of them in 2 stations and an introduction. So the author gives them as summaries, but inshallah we will try to expand them. Okay? That's the reason we wanted to study this letter. It's like an index, and we can expand together. So let's start reading the introduction and then the first phrase, like until the end of the first phrase, from the introduction to the end of the first phrase, and then inshallah we can study together. But please don't forget and keep in mind that when we study, we will try to see how, like at the beginning, author says, each of which conveys some good tidings and degree in the unity of dominicality, Tawhid al-Rububiyyah. So we will study from these 2 aspects. So for instance, we will study La ilaha illallah to understand how La ilaha illallah represents the divine unity, and then how it becomes, how it is good tidings, good news. Okay? That would be our purpose. So I would ask for the volunteers, but Zara, since you already have the microphone, that's coincidence that maybe you want to read it for us. From the introduction till the end of the first phrase, keep it slow, please. You don't have to rush. Yeah.
Okay. Be certain of this, that the highest aim of creation and its most important result is belief in God. The most exalted rank in humanity and its highest degree is the knowledge of God contained within the belief in God. The most radiant happiness and sweet bounty for jinn and human beings is the love of God contained within the knowledge of God. And the purest joy for the human spirit and the sheerest degree in delight for man's heart is the rapture of the spirit contained within the love of God. Yes, all true happiness, pure joy, sweet bounties, untroubled pleasures lie in knowledge of God and love of God. They cannot exist without them. The person who knows and loves God Almighty may receive endless bounties, happiness, lights, and mysteries, while the one who does not truly know and love Him is afflicted spiritually and materially by endless misery, pain, and fears. Even if such an impotent, miserable person owned the whole world, it would be worth nothing for him, for it would seem to him that he was living a fruitless life among vagrant human race in a wretched world without owner or protector. Everyone may understand just how forlorn and baffled is man among the aimless human race in this bewildering, fleeting world if he does not know his owner, if he does not discover his master. If he does not discover and know him, he will seek refuge. But if he does not discover and know him, he will seek refuge in his mercy. Sorry, but if he does discover him, I'm sorry, I missed it. I'll go back again. Everyone may understand just how forlorn and baffled among man the aimless human race is a bewildering, fleeting world if he does not know his owner, if he does not discover his master. But if he does discover him, know him, he will seek refuge in his mercy and rely on his power. The desolate world will turn into a place of recreation and pleasure. It will become a place of trade for the hereafter. First station. Each of the 11 phrases of the above-mentioned sentence affirming divine unity contains some good news, and in the good news lies a cure, while each of those cures a spiritual pleasure is to be found. The first phrase, there is no God but God. This phrase conveys the following good news to the human spirit. Suffering as it does countless needs to the attacks of innumerable enemies. On the one hand, the spirit finds a place of recourse, a source of help through which is opened to it the doors of treasury, the treasury of mercy, will guarantee all its needs. While on the other hand, it finds support and source of strength, for the phrase makes it known its creator and the true object of worship, who possesses the absolute power to secure it from the evil of all its enemies. It shows its master and who is that it owns it. Through pointing this out, the phrase saves the heart from the utter desolation and the spirit from aching sorrow. It ensures the eternal joy and perpetual happiness.
In the first phrase, it says you are surrounded by all these countless enemies and they constantly attacking you. So only place of recourse and source of help is by opening this door of treasury of mercy that will guarantee all its needs. And you find this through this La ilaha illallah, he says. Okay. On the other hand, if you don't knock the door of the source, then you will be in a desperate place. It finds a support and source of strength for the phrase La ilaha illallah, makes known its creator and true object of worship, who possesses the absolute power to secure it from the evil of all its needs. All its, yeah, I don't have the text, I was just, yeah, enemies. And your needs are kind of your enemies, yeah. It shows its master and who it is that owns it. Anyway, like we will start studying La ilaha illallah inshallah in more details. Before doing so, any opening remarks? Like a big picture, comments, questions? You want to say something? Okay.
So, since it was mentioning cures, like at the first station, said in the good news lies a cure, while in each of those cures a spiritual pleasure is to be found. This reminded me of a few verses in Quran, which mentions Quran as a cure. So the verse goes as Ya ayyuhan nasu qad ja'atkum maw'izatun min rabbikum wa shifaa'un lima fi as-sudur wa hudan wa rahmatan lil mu'minin. O mankind, there has now come unto you an admonition, a reminder, a message from your sustainer, and a cure for all that may be in the man's hearts or chest, and guidance and grace unto all who believe. And another similar verse, this is وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. We send down in the Quran that which is a healing, cure, and a mercy to those who believe. To the unjust, it causes nothing but loss after loss. So Quran is introducing itself as a cure for which is a sort of a problem, trouble in humans' chest. So when we think about Quran being a cure, I don't know what comes to our mind, but since in here the author is mentioning about a cure, so now which makes me question whenever I see a verse, since it's a cure, now I can also look at it and say, what disease do I have that this is curing? So like if a doctor comes and says, okay, eat this and it's going to be beneficial for you, there must be something missing in me and it's going to be curing it. So I guess in the same sense, we can read those because the author is now mentioning these messages of Quran, which is summarized in these 11 phrases as cure. So what are my troubles that these are curing me? I guess we can appreciate the cure more if we can pinpoint the presence of those diseases or the problems in me. So I think this might be a way to take it.
Jazakallah khairan. Any other comments, questions? The parts that you don't agree, don't understand, parts that you don't like, find it offended, any feelings, the parts that excites you. Oh, you want to say something? Okay, can you pass the microphone, please?
I'm just going to repeat what Brother Yusuf said in different words. Take a copy sheet from his notebook. But I think, it says like in the paragraph after the first phrase, there is no God but God. Something can only be good news to me if I recognize the needs that it looks to. So I have to ask myself, okay, here it's saying the human spirit suffering as it does countless needs. Like, is that really true for myself? What needs do I have? Is my spirit suffering? You know, if someone wanted to give you Tylenol, it means nothing to you. That Tylenol means nothing to you unless you have some sort of pain that you know it will treat. Otherwise, it's like this red tablet capsule that you could say, well, what's it to me? It's not relevant to me. So I think the more, as Brother Yusuf was saying, the more I pinpoint, what do I seek for in my life? What are the needs that I find constantly coming up again and again in the situations I face in life? If I can pinpoint those, then I can see if the claims that the Quran comes with, if the claims that this phrase comes with, right, can genuinely be good news to me.
Jazakallah khairan. Anyone else? I'm just collecting the comments, ideas at this point, and then we can discuss together. No? Okay, let's start with the first phrase, inshallah. I don't remember whether we started last week or not with studying this. We did? Okay.
So this is the first part of this 20th letter. And the main focus in this first part is going to be about the first station, is going to be about the good news and the cure aspect of things. Like author will not dwell on proof of La ilaha illallah, for example, in the first part. In the second part, though, he's going to be making proofs of La ilaha illallah, which is interesting. So why is he first telling me the benefits and the glad tidings in it, and then we'll now establish that, yeah, La ilaha illallah is actually the case, wahdahu is actually the case, and here are the evidences for that. So this is an interesting thing to take a look at, because I would think the other way around, for instance. I would say, let me first make sure this is true, then I'm going to talk about its benefits. But as if the author in here is saying that, let's first agree, this would have immense benefit to you. Just look at its utility in your life. It's going to make a big change. So as if it is in the first station, whetting my appetite for, yeah, actually, if this would be the case, it would be awesome, sort of a thing. So showing its utility in my life, and then establishing its proof is going to give me that solid background, which would make the second station more lovely, I would say. Otherwise, if it was the other way around, which I have been taking it so far in my personal journey, the proof becomes like a technical proof that I'm trying to prove existence of God to the atheist. But now it's going to be, I am benefiting from that. It's not for the atheist that La ilaha illallah or wahdahu or all these are, I'm trying to give answers to, as if coming up with an ideological argument to overcome some outsider. It's going to, at the end, by showing those benefits, I am at the end of this conversation.
Jazakallah.
Some adamant no's about discussing this last week, the first phrase from the side of the board.
We have, sorry, one?
So the question of, did we discuss
Yes.
this last week? We had some adamant no's that just weren't vocalized.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I see. So would you like to vocalize it and then share with us?
That we discussed
And then-
this last week.
Oh, I see. The next time, be careful with like who you friend with. The reason I ask, because we've been studying this text 2-3 different, the places and so on in different circles. So everything is now mixed.
I think we discussed the paragraphs on the introduction,
I see.
but we didn't start with the first phrase.
That's how I remember as well. So, yeah. Okay, let's start with the first phrase, but please keep in mind what Yusuf said, although he's not, always reliable. What he said is extremely important. Trying to make sense of it from your own perspective. So this is something, so we have to be very careful when we do that. The one thing, this is something new to us, okay? Because as quote unquote educated people, throughout our education system, we've been taught that when you study something, when you try to understand something, you should take yourself out of the equation and look at it as an outsider. There are such silly words I don't want to, enjoy using much. Things like objective, yeah. So just try to get yourself out of it and make sense of it. That can be true for everyone, so on and so forth. These things that keep hearing. And they do sound reasonable, right? But when you think about it, if you are studying something, as we said, to cure your disease and trying to get yourself out of the equation is the most stupid thing that you can do. It's for you or not. Like it's either works for you or it doesn't work for you. Okay? You shouldn't care what other people think about it, like at this station at least. Okay? So that's one aspect of it. The second, but when you take it to, let's say, to the other extreme and take it as a wishful thinking, I think it's good, so I take it as good, then it becomes useless again. So we have to find the balance, right? And nowadays, even, the hardcore naturalists, scientists, and so on, they also try to find the balance in the same thing. Because everybody now see that it was a mistake taking humanity out of the equation. Okay? Even in the hardcore, the theoretical studies, we are trying to put the human back into the equation. Okay? So we have to do the same thing here as well. Don't take it as mechanical, the arguments, mechanical proofs, and so on and so forth. It won't work for anybody, first and foremost for you. It won't contribute anything. So when we think about La ilaha illallah, for instance, the first thing comes to our mind is certain arguments that we, hear from, let's say, the Kalam studies and so on. So this is not the way the author studies it. It's the same topic that it studies, but the method is different. Okay, method, it starts from the human experience. So this is extremely important. Any objections to that? No comments? You have comment.
I have a comment, but it's actually related to last week's.
Just a second. That I have to demonstrate it so that everybody. So when you pass the mic, so there's a flat surface and there's a non-flat surface. Okay, when you put it on the flat surface and throw it, it goes smoothly. It's for everybody, especially for you, Kadir. Okay.
That's an
Yeah. You can continue after turning on your microphone. Turn on your. Okay.
So last week we were discussing about La ilaha illallah. So in that discussion, you and Brother Yusuf, you were talking about that we should always start from the problem and then take that problem towards and find out the solution, and solution will always come out to be Allah, right? But I was thinking about it. As Muslims, we always know that Allah is always going to be the solution, right? So we always have the answer. So right now you were talking about you can't take the human element out of this, right? So the human element is that we always know the answer. The answer for us as Muslims, we always know that's always going to be Allah. Then how do we actually relate that? We're not Prophet Ibrahim. We can't actually, we are not infallible. We can't actually think from that perspective too. So we as Muslims know that anything we do, we have to relate that to Allah. We always have that mapping, but we're just finding that mapping. So how does that relate to La ilaha illallah? Because we already know the answer.
Can I say something?
Please. I'm about to say something harsh, so save me.
It's interesting that you talk about Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, because I think when the Quran mentions Ibrahim alayhi salam, we shouldn't just take it as, the story of someone that happened some time ago, even if that is the case, but also that it's saying something about how it's providing an example of how I should try to live my life, right? Which is through the series of questioning that satisfies my human reasoning, my human feelings, my human expectations. And one way I like to think about it that someone once explained to me is, let's say you're studying for some exam and there's going to be like math questions on that exam. and you have a workbook, maybe it's like a national exam or something like that, and they have, study books that people sell, and you can buy them and work on it, and it emulates the real exam. Now in the study book, there might be those math exams, and on the very back is the answer key, right? Now, if you just go to the answer key and you take the answers and you write that down, is it correct? Yes, but it doesn't give me anything, because the point is not necessarily to find that right answer. It's important, it's critical, but the point is to be able to solve it myself, right? That the process of it is so integral, almost as integral as the answer itself. So if I go to the answer key, yes, it's there, but I have to confirm it, right? So the Quran provides those answers, but it says confirm it for yourself. Look at your human experiences. Look at the world around you. Solve the problem as you will. Because, if I go, and, if this is the school and whatnot, like if I go and take that math exam, like if you just wrote the answer, how many points would the teacher give you? If it's just the answer to a math equation? Zero. They'd be like, you missed the point. You missed the point. The point's not just the answer. Yes, it's important to resolving the question, but you have to show me the work. And here for me, I guess it's not about showing the work to someone else per se, but about how like when I look at my human needs, I need to be able to find satisfaction to them through the process of confirming it, witnessing it, experiencing it in my life. So that's my sort of quick response to how we can maybe think about it, right? So being able to say, live as a Muslim as my conclusion rather than as my starting point, right? Inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. Anyone else? So that reminded me two examples from my life. One is I live in Turkey, so I speak Turkish since my childhood, and I always take it as I know Turkish because I speak Turkish, right? And I didn't realize that up until taking some classes in another language, which had some similar structures with the Turkish and so on. While studying this language, I realized most of the things that I've been talking, I didn't even know. The grammar rules, the language structure, how words come together, and so on and so forth. I didn't know. And it was around, 20 years something or 30 years I was. So just because, I was raised in a Turkish society and I've been also speaking Turkish, it doesn't mean, for instance, I can teach Turkish to someone. I didn't know even the rules myself. I was just memorizing and I keep repeating them. It doesn't mean that I'm a Turkish scholar, right? Another example from a friend of ours that it's not about me, but she is doing this, the hat, okay, these writings. And she's, spent all these years to study the morphology of the letters, their anatomy, and so on and so forth. She knows everything about the letters. She's not Arabic, right? She doesn't speak Arabic, but she's perfect with these, the letters. One day she was talking to an Arabic speaking person, and this person, he didn't know anything about the letters and so on. He's Arabic, just like I'm Turkish. And probably his handwriting was terrible. But still, he said, oh, if you want to, do such things to this lady, that maybe, I can show you some tricks and something like that, right? Why? Because he's Arabic-speaking person, and he thinks he knows the letters. But compared to this one, he's not even, child. It's nothing. So just because we've been raised in Muslim societies and we've been memorize certain things, it doesn't mean we know the answer. We memorize answers just like I can speak Turkish, right? I mean, it's not the best example because I also know Turkish. You know, I'm, let's say, an educated person and so on and so forth. But probably you got what I mean, right? So just because we can perfectly say Allah, right? Versus someone just trying to learn and say Allah instead, it doesn't mean that we know Allah better. Just because you can perfectly, Muhammad, for instance, perfectly articulate La ilaha illallah with all, the rules and so on, it doesn't mean necessarily, at least. I'm not saying that he doesn't know, but it doesn't necessarily means that he knows what La ilaha illallah means. He can translate it into English, and that's all. So, and from another perspective, if we really knew as Muslims, as you said, as Muslim, as a group, whatever it means, because it's really hard to put the boundary, right? Anyone who says La ilaha illallah, Muhammadan Rasulullah, just articulating this makes you Muslim. I mean, there's no discussion there, right? All scholars agree that if you articulate this, Shahada, you are Muslim. So can we say that someone, just because he repeated after another Muslim brother, like it goes this way, right? The Imam says, okay, he wants to become Muslim and repeat after me, he says. And he says, La, then the person says, La ilaha illallah, and then we say, Allahu Akbar. So he is a Muslim, no question. It's not our, the job to question anything. What does it necessarily mean? Again, I'm not talking about the persons, I'm talking about the concepts. Does it necessarily mean now that he knows the answer is Allah? Can we say that? I wouldn't. Right? And today, during the khutbah, our lovely Imam, he was saying that according to Hadith, Prophet ﷺ says there are 60, 70, how many he said, branches of Iman? Yeah, of course. And the highest degree of Iman, according to this narration, is La ilaha illallah. So it's something yet that you have to attain. Just being born in a society doesn't give you this achievement. So you have to attain this level.
So that is my question exactly. The problem is because we were born Muslims, we were raised in a Muslim society and everything. We are, I don't want to say it, but like sort of brainwashed into thinking that way, right? So we can't really unlearn this. That's how do we unlearn it to train ourselves to follow this principle and then come to the conclusion that La ilaha illallah?
That's a perfect question. And this is like the irony is, so we all of us here, when we face this reality, studying this author and so on and so forth, we were all shocked because Quran is suggesting what you just said. Quran suggests, start from La ilaha illallah, says Quran. The La ilaha, Quran says. Don't start from Allah. Always start from La ilaha. This is what Quran suggests. That's the irony. So we have to, if you want to call it as unlearn, let's call it unlearn. But we shouldn't also deny the way that we've been created. I was, with a choice, intentional, purposeful, wiseful choice, I was created and I am created as part of a Muslim society. So that was a choice for me. Like the choice made for me, right? So I cannot deny this either. So I have to use whatever given to me through my culture, through my society, through my background, the history, whatever. You have to use it, but in the methodology, the creator suggests you. It starts from the La ilaha. And my intention today is, let's see what it means. Let's see what it means to start from La ilaha. And then reach the conclusion of illallah. As Aisha said, we've been given since childhood the answer key. And we keep it in our pockets and we think we are saved. Because every time a question comes, we know the answer is C or D or E, whatever these multiple choices are. But in real life, the questions, they don't come this way. They come in, the veiled versions. We cannot see, how this question is the same with the question that I have. And we are confused. We don't know the answer. Our iman starts shaking. So don't use the answer key. Use the answer key to check your sanity. Try to give the answer and look at the answer key to see whether you are right or not. But try to answer yourself. Otherwise, you cannot attain this highest degree of iman, which is La ilaha illallah. The lowest degree is helping others, according to this narration. Right? Taking something out of their way, for instance, a harmful, let's say, a nail on the road. Maybe you can attain, which is good. Inshallah, it will take you Jannah, inshallah. But if we're coming together within such a circle, we have to try to attain La ilaha illallah degree of the iman. So does it make sense? Please don't take it just because the oldest person in the room is saying so. Don't take it that way. Oh, it also applies to you as well. Sorry. So does it make sense? Don't take it just because it's coming from me or, the second oldest. I'm not naming, Sure, please.
So I'm not sure why we should learn first. We should learn the La ilaha. Like, well, what does that mean? Like
atheism.
No. So it's not like learning it. It's just seeing it. And inshallah, we will study what it means.
Okay. Yeah. So, go
Just
ahead.
two small comments,
Yeah.
inshallah small. So maybe making a distinction between knowledge and iman might also help here. Because this reminds me of, I'm going to give an outside example so that it's going to be easier to digest. In Judaism, you are Jewish if your mother's Jewish. So you inherit, I'm not sure if we can call it inheriting belief, but you're just inheriting a certain title from your parents. So iman, on the other hand, should be a conviction, like it should be giving me some sort of a certainty and security. This is why the word iman itself is being secure. It has this amniyah, like the security in it. So it's different than knowledge. Like I can know a certain thing, they say so, for example, if you told me that your name is Arsalan, this is a knowledge, so I can get to know that. But being like iman in this case means something about security and being sure, having conviction about something. So yeah, I heard from my parents that there's no God but God. And I take it as true because this is what I inherited from my culture in this sense, and my culture being a Muslim culture. But am I sure and secure about that? If I ask that question, like, is this my reality? Is this my conviction? Or it used to be somebody else's conviction and it's just my title right now? when does it become a conviction? If it has a utility in my life, if it truly gives me security in life, then it becomes my conviction. That's why the author is actually talking about cure here. And if I read it from the flip side, for example, if I am having certain problems in my life, certain pains, and let's say, I don't know how to call it, but going through some difficulties in terms of, like, I am dissatisfied, I am feeling alone, or I am feeling whatever I take, it doesn't satisfy me. I keep climbing the ladders within my career, and it just looks like it will go for infinity, and I'm not seeking for getting any satisfaction. These are really like very nice litmus tests to tell me that I'm not secure. These might be good indications that, oh, if La ilaha illallah would have been there, it would have been curing this. And this is why La ilaha illallah is not really that much binary. Maybe I didn't apply La ilaha illallah when it comes to my career goals, when it comes to be appreciated by people. Still, I do think that if you think that I'm a good speaker, then I'm going to feel nice, let's say. Then that means I'm taking you as source of satisfaction in this case. So you become ilah in this case, for example. So this is why La ilaha illallah has to be applied to every individual thing I see in my life, because potentially you are an ilah for giving me satisfaction out of this talk, for example. Or these kids might become sort of an ilah, because ilah means sort of existence. Like, she is cute and I enjoyed cuteness. What did I say? She is cute. Actually, she became the source of cuteness now. So this is not La ilaha illallah anymore. I said, no, she is cute and cuteness belongs to her. Although I claim to be a Muslim and I say La ilaha illallah, for example, this has nothing to do with La ilaha illallah. Actually, it's contradictory to La ilaha illallah. So these are the parts that I need to be re-questioning, because Iman is a conviction. It's not a type of a knowledge. When Quran talks about La ilaha illallah, as it was very beautifully put, it is the answer sheet that my creator says, you will reach here. This is the destination. But in order for it to become a result, a conclusion for me, I have to go through that. This is why it cannot be memorized. So this was the first point. Sorry, it took too long. So the second thing is, as a consequence of that, when we are talking about belief matters, maybe we can take it as a rule of thumb, not to say, for example, we believe in that. A better thing in this case could be just to establish as a rule, when we are discussing the matters, this is my conviction, I believe, rather than we. When we are worshiping, we can say we, because worshiping is now we are presenting our conclusions to the creator. In this case, I can say, oh Allah, help us, for example. It's a we over there. But when it's a matter of Iman and declaring Iman, we better use I believe in that, because it's my personal conviction. Otherwise, it sounds like we Jews, like this inheriting aspect comes into there. Iman, on the other hand, is a individual conviction. So your Iman, his Iman, my Iman. Did I arrive to that conclusion? So why am I emphasizing this? Because when it comes to Islam or Judaism or anything, since there's also a component of cultural ethnicity over there, so we time to time mix the two, like this, the thing that became a cultural identity versus a personal conviction. We use the same word for the two, but yes, this is why some people say, I am cultural a Muslim, but I'm an atheist. I don't know if you ever heard about things like that. I am cultural a Muslim, but I'm an atheist. This is an oxymoron altogether. But what it means is, at least this person is saying that within Muslim culture, I was born, but I have nothing to do with Islam in its core. So this is why, in order to make a distinction also in our understanding, it might help to say that, especially when it comes to the matters of belief, I believe, rather than we Muslims believe, because it's, when we say we Muslim, it sounds like this cultural ethnicity versus things are getting mixed up too much. And Iman is a personal journey anyways. So
just wanted to ask another thing. I was wondering if we can, like, so Arsalan was saying that we as Muslims, like we I know we shouldn't say we now, but you know, we grew up like believing, like, or at least to be a Muslim, we should believe that there's no, like we say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and we like say that like in every prayer and whatever. So so I was just wondering if we, instead of unlearning this, is just like expanding what it means. So instead of just making it mean that there's no God but Allah, it means there is no creator or sustainer but one God. But it also means that, as Brother Yusuf was saying now, that whatever I see, I should basically, like, for example, let's say I'm a Muslim and I believe La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and at the same time I should ask myself, and according to the author, I'm supposed to be secure and happy and joyful knowing this. But then I find myself worried and anxious and, you know, sometimes in despair, like, but I do believe La ilaha illallah, then why am I, you know, why do I have all this feeling? So it means the belief I have is, maybe, as you said, I did not get the meaning of it. Like I got only part of it, maybe, which is, you know, the basic thing to be a Muslim, but I did not attain the real belief of, like, as you said, like, for example, when it comes to my career, I, like, the only reliance should be is on Allah. Like the only belief should be that whatever comes is from Allah. I think that's what we're missing. So it's not like the belief is wrong. It's just, it's limited. We kind of like we have to expand it to way more than just believing that, yeah, we were created and we're being sustained by one God, I would say. Yeah.
With great points. So, yeah, I don't prefer the unlearning part, the word at least either. But there's one thing I guess we should stop doing at least, which is assuming that we already have what we need. And we do this assumption a lot. So when it comes to belief, so like there are many things about the belief, but two things is that comes to my mind is the one thing is belief is a journey. It's not, you know, a state that you attain and you stay there. It's a journey. And there is no end. There is no such thing as, you know, I attained the highest degree. The Prophet ﷺ gives us as a target in his Miraj, ascension, right? He goes through this journey himself, but as a example, also tells us that this is what you should be doing as well, right? He says, okay, there's this, the final target where, sorry? Yeah, Sidratul Muntaha, where, you know, the possibility and necessity comes, you know, we're close to each other. So, but this is just, you know, a target that we try to reach. In our journeys, there will be no end. So there is no such thing as I attained belief. It's like I'm attaining belief. It's always a present tense from, you know, the Arabic perspective. So for instance, that's really interesting. In Quran, when the Creator talks to believers, right? Sometimes he uses this present tense, those who believe, okay? And then say things. And it's usually to encourage them, to say things like, you know, the Jannah is for you and so on and so forth. Most of the times, you would see it in the past tense, which is, you know, those who believed. Yeah, amen, right? And in most of these such ayahs, what is following is giving you some new instructions. As if, you know, those who claim to believe or those who came to this point, here is the new thing that you should be doing. or here is the thing that you should have been doing. Okay, so there is no end. So it doesn't, for instance, you wouldn't find an ayah. I'm maybe being too like so. I shouldn't speak, in certain with a certainty, but I don't remember. Let me put it that way. I don't remember an ayah where there's a past tense and then ends with congratulations. Like those who believed, congratulations. You did it. I don't remember such ayah, at least. It always those who believe. There is also an order like believe, like I'm already believing, you would say. No, Quran says believe. Anyway, the second thing is that there's a really good example the author gives about the belief. He says, you can talk about two types of beliefs. And these are not, exhaustive, like when he says two types, it's from one perspective. Let's imagine there's a pile of, what would say, like the valuable things, treasures, for instance, in front of you. And you believe that these treasures belong to dua, right? As a whole. All these treasures belong to dua, and you believe in that. But then Zerin comes and says that, oh, yeah, it belongs to dua, but this tiny part, it's actually mine. So, somebody misplaced it. And because you believe it as a whole, you don't see any, reason not to take it serious as well. You say, okay, it's possible. As a whole, maybe it belongs to her, but just this tiny thing belongs to Zerin, right? And because like you say, okay, Dua is the richest person I know, so this treasure must be hers. That's your belief, okay? This is how you know that it's hers. And then Sultan comes and says, how about this specific part? It's also mine. I'm sorry, somebody misplaced. And you say, okay, this is also a possibility, right? As a whole, still the biggest part is hers because she's the richest person. Nobody else can have them all together. But one by one, everybody start claiming, right? This part is mine, this part is mine, this part is mine. Just like us, we do, like we say, oh, Allah gives us shifa, the health. But this medicine takes this, this scientist takes this, the doctor takes this part, and so on. Everybody claims like a tiny parts. And at the end, nothing is left. Another type of belief, he says, when you look at the treasure, and when you look at every individual part of it, you see the signature of dua on everything, right? The name dua is written with his, a beautiful signature. And when Zerin comes and says that, oh no, this specific part belongs to me, so what are you talking about? Look at the signature. And it stays there. No one can claim any part. So there is no shirk, no partner. Going back to what Arsalan said, as Muslims, we believe everything is being created by God, but just as a whole. What it means, like, for instance, Aisha cannot create the entire universe. She cannot, you know that. Dua cannot do it, so it has to be Allah, right, as a whole. But when she says, yeah, that's true, but this food you are eating, I made it. You say, okay, it's a possible, it's, tiny thing. There's no harm to give it to her, and you give it to her. And then she does not stop, of course, like seeing that. She says, oh yeah, but these printouts, I produced them. And then he says, the tea that you are drinking, I made it. One by one. The entire universe is distributed to people or some other things. So our belief, and when I say our, I'm just generalizing, I shouldn't. But most of the times I find myself that my belief is the first type, which is believe in God as a whole. And I say, yeah, God created everything, but this tiny thing, it's created by something else. And one by one, it goes away. And then we don't see any reason to believe in God anymore. And this is our situation as a Muslim, the society. The new generations, they don't find any reason to believe that there must be a God. Because we, the older generations, we distributed everything to something else. So,
I guess the difference between my generation and my youngest sister's generation is, in our generation, we were more conservative in the sense that when it comes to the word creation, it is exclusively used for the creator. So, for example, when my wife says, I cooked the food, I say, well, it's not creation, though. She just cooked it. She did. I don't think that it's creation, really. Like when Birkan said, cooking the food is now attributed to the wife, still I think like it's not creation. I just said cooked. Still in my mind as if I am attributing creation to the creator, because that word creation in my generation was exclusively used for the creator, and it was a taboo to even this was the case in Turkey, and I believe still within the Muslim circles here it applies. Like be creative. The word be creative was not possible to be used for humans. But fast forward, now my youngest sister, they don't have this sensitivity either. Like they say, well, you're just playing with the words. This is what it means, like creation, you're attributing, it's just the word creation, you're using it, but just using a different word. Changing the word doesn't really change the meaning. Then she is, now that things are more liberal in this new world, which I am now part of the old generation, but the newer generation says, why do you need God then? Because everything is being done by somebody else anyways. Now they are being more, the new generation is being more liberal and comfortable, saying that there's no God in this case, really, other than a word which from outside we are imposing on some gap filler sort of a thing. But eventually we will figure out what it is, and then everything is going to be explained. So today, wife does the cooking, or the electricity is like the light is because of electricity. This is because of that. So this creates this, this creates that. Everything is explained, no room for God. So I think this is why, as still you're from my generation, so we have this maybe disadvantage in this sense that a feeling of still there is some territory which is dedicated to God, which untouchable because of the vocabulary maybe. And I feel like, yeah, I believe in the creator because when it comes create, it's to him. But it's just a play of words in my understanding. This is what I found for myself, actually. When I said, in my world, it was electricity converts to light. But in new generations language, it's going to be electricity creates light. It is the same meaning, actually. But in my world, I was just using, since creation was a word exclusively used for God, I would say converts. And I feel like I am now secure. I didn't commit shirk or anything because, yeah, electricity, like God creates, but electricity converts. Just take the word converts away and put creates over there, the same thing, and it perfectly fulfills the same reasoning. Therefore, there's no need for God for explaining that phenomena anymore in the eyes of the new generation, because electricity creates the light. Now I attribute it, so just taking it back to what Birkan was saying, wife cooked food, new generation says, oh, this food is creation of my wife. Or that artwork is creation of my wife. Like, since it's artwork, we tend to say this, right? The food is also artwork, it's creation of someone. So this is why there is no room left for the creator anymore with this line of thought.
we will give a break, inshallah, for Maghrib prayer. And after the prayer, we will try to go through some examples. And the first example would be, inshallah, who brings down the rain? Right? Because we know the answer. In Quran, it says, Allah, right? Allah says, we sent down the rain. Let's think about it. Let's be honest, whether we believe in such an answer or not. We will study who brings down the rain. And let's start. Let's start with rain. Who does bring down the rain? And I know all of us, at least most of us, are educated people. So let's not insult each other by pretending that we don't know anything about, the physics, biology, chemistry, whatever. Right? We spend our life studying them. Let's start with the best students among us. Zerin, would you like to start? Are your grades good, by the way? Or is it just?
How's that
Yeah.
They're decent.
Were you like a really good student?
He's a straight A student.
Okay.
He's one of these, if they get A minus, they cry.
Okay. Yeah. I know. I used to fight with my, the professors because I get 97 out of 100. Yeah.
Tantrum. I know.
Let's start from there. Your cries.
Oh my God.
So again, when we ask this question, it's not just, it's something out there. It's you walking with your friend, your family, your cousins, whatever, and rains starts. What do you see there? What's going on? Is there anything, out of ordinary, like extraordinary? Anything to mention, even worth mentioning?
So I guess maybe my perspective, before attending any of these sessions, would be that I guess I would be in the habit of just checking the weather forecast. So I would rely on my app on my phone to tell me is it going to rain or not, first of all. And then so if it does rain, then I'll be like, this is just as the weather app predicted. This is nothing extraordinary because I foresaw it via this app that I have. And then let's say on the other hand, the app said it was going to be sunny. So if it suddenly starts raining, I'll be like, I would probably think, the app isn't 100% correct all the time. So I guess for whatever reason, there was a surprise rainstorm that happened out of nowhere that the media.
But just for now, right?
Yeah.
Let's say 30 years from today, this app will become much better.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Right, exactly. So so the app was just not as good today at predicting the weather for today, and maybe that's because the meteorologist didn't have enough data or something. So I guess that would be my initial mindset of if it rains, how I experience that rain. It doesn't seem to be something. It's something that if it starts, I know that from my previous experiences that there are certain mechanisms that can cause it to rain that depend on the temperature in the sky and certain, as Atik said, certain negative ions. I'm not going to pretend I remember the process of how it rains because I probably don't, unfortunately. But so it's something that I've learned and it's something that I've experienced before. So it's not some sort of miraculous event for me.
Even if you don't know the details of the process, I don't know either. Probably it's only I think that. So, for instance, you would say, it is expected, not even expected. It's almost certain that it has to be that way. When you drop water from the cloud, it has to come down. There's no other way, right? Because there is this gravity. Exactly. It has to come down as water. It cannot become, I don't know, orange in the middle of the way, right? So there's no surprise. It has to be that way. And the beginning part, the same way, right? The oceans, evaporation, nothing surprising. The sun, heat, the water becomes vapor. And when it becomes vapor, it has to go up, right? Again, it has to. And then, sorry?
Because it is lighter.
Because it is lighter, yes. And when it reaches the upper, the levels of the skies, it becomes what? Colder, then denser, and so on and so forth, becomes water. You can even test this with your, the fridge, right? Put something like a hot water with vapor, and it will become rain. If you put it in a, let's say, a glass jar or something, right? It's in your hands. Nothing to be surprising. And when somebody asks, and this somebody doesn't need to be an outsider again. Yourself, or the other day I was talking to my daughter. She was asking me about the rain, and we were talking about the rain. Like, the only thing I can tell her is that it goes up from the oceans and then come here as rain. So do we have anything extra other than this with the rain? Anything comes to your mind?
You explained as much as it's no need for God, I guess.
But this is not a joke. Like, if we take it as a micro universe, right? Where is God? Why do we need God? Why? Go ahead, please, Erin.
I guess so the sort of way we've been phrasing it is that the water like has to go up and it has to come down once it's reached a certain point, because for some reason it's very cold up there. So we've been using terminology like it has to, it does this, like we know this, but I guess the next line of questioning would be, well, how do we know this for certain? What guarantee is there that the water is going to always like evaporate and then come back down as rain? Why does it stay in this sort of fixed cycle and nothing changes it? And so we might, I think, like use that the fact that it happens repeatedly and that fact that we can see this pattern as a means to explain, oh, because it happens like this, we can use this conclusion to explain why it happens. But that doesn't necessarily logically follow because you're using the effect to explain the cause, which it's just an effect. So you're still missing the like initial like cause of how did this all come into being in the first place and why is it set in this fixed pattern if there was really no like I guess creator or sustainer, or if everything was just random and happened by chance to be set in this way. What guarantee do we even have that it's going to continue in this way? So for rain or for anything like natural that we observe.
So, okay, now it's kind of like negotiating, right? That this is, it's really beautiful. The words, the ideas, the concepts that Quran chooses. The shirk, for instance, it's not necessarily like a denial. It's kind of like a negotiation. Okay, you take this part, I will take this part. right? So with the rain, okay, let's say there are these natural laws and everything is set as someone from Bangladesh or Bangladesh. As someone from Bangladesh, you call it as Allah created these laws. I'm fine with this. But let's, as let's say, neutral human beings, if we are just dealing with the rain itself, we would say, okay, natural laws, they are there. And then the rest happens because there are natural laws, right? You say God made them happen or set them. I say, okay, we don't know how they, come to the existence, these natural laws, but they are there, and that's the only thing I care. Once I accept that there are natural laws, then there's no mystery. There's a negotiation, right? I gave some part to Allah, and I said, for now, we don't know how these natural laws, the gravity, evaporation, whatever, come to happen. And I'm fine with it, not moving it for now. But as your app, just like your app, in maybe 200 years, I will know it and I will take it back from Allah, right? But for now, I'm fine with giving it to your Allah, your God. And so if we assume that the mechanism is set once, there are these laws, am I fine with it? The rest follows automatically. You don't take it as a the interview. If you want to say something, you can, of course. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, anyone can join. Yeah. So if I conclude that there are these patterns or the laws, however you call it, doesn't matter. You call it as sunnatullah, I call it as natural law. Okay? So what is the difference? Right? I mean, once I believe that there are such laws, the rest, that doesn't follow automatically. Because if it follows automatically, then you just put the God as, to fill some gap, the unknown. There is unknown part, which is we don't know how these laws were set. And for that part, I'm giving it to Allah. But for the rest, how these laws operate, how things happen in real life, practical life, we don't need God, it seems. Oh, so please.
I think it's sort of the same discussion as we were having last time, where we were like thinking of medicine as a means and God is the source. And I thought about like what Joseph said last time, and I realized that you really have to start thinking of things as like empty vessels and not as the means, because the means then like give them a role, and they don't essentially have a role. They're just empty vessels, probably. I don't know the purpose. Maybe they're there to trick us. I don't know. But I think the problem is that when we think of like these natural laws and we ascribe like rain to the natural laws, is that we're going to look at the natural laws to grant us that thing. So maybe in the future, like there are a lot of past examples of when like people wanted rain, they looked to God and they would like collect in a field or whatever, in a place, and they would pray to God because they knew rain came from God. But when you start to ascribe that same rain to natural laws, maybe in the future, we're not going to look to God and we're going to try to be like, oh, you know what? I need to create a perfect temperature in order for these vapors to rise. I need to provide wind. We sort of put ourselves at the forefront of like causing that thing. And it reminded me of like a story. I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't know who was telling it to me, but apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong, Prophet Musa, I think, was sick one time, and God told him to eat from like this tree or something, and he ate from the tree and he felt better.
Next time, when he got sick again, instead of going to God and instead of turning to God, he simply just went to the tree and he ate from it and he didn't feel better. So he asked God, why am I not feeling better, even though I did the same thing? And God said, it's because you didn't ask me the second time for help and you just went and you tried to go to the solution. And you saw it as your means for like taking that pain away. So that's just sort of what I was thinking of.
Very beautiful. Like when you say empty vessel, and you say that it should be empty vessel because they cannot they carry the the things that we see in the phenomenon themselves. Then we have to start questioning. This is the point I've been trying to reach actually. What do we need to ascribe to them? Like if it's assumed that there are natural laws, taking care of everything. What is this everything that we have to question? And your example, it reminded me that people putting fruits or the meat, like beautiful things in front of the idols to please them. So when you try to reach the perfect temperature, for instance, this is what you do actually. You try to please something so that you will get the outcome out of it. You actually serving some idol, like you're trying to please it. And it's really funny, like this mushrikeen, they wouldn't say that, these idols creates everything. If you ask them who created, Quran says, right? If you ask them, Quran says, who created everything, they will say Allah. That's really irony, right? But they still have these idols. Why? As intermediaries, as you said. Like,
I didn't get the example about the temperature.
so when you try to get rain, for instance, right? You say, I have to create an environment where there's the perfect temperature for this rain. Like you're trying to please this temperature, this system to, putting some fruits in front of the idol.
So can we say this like Allah created those natural laws and put them in place? And so the rain is working through that. How is this thinking wrong? That
it's not about wrong or right, at least at this moment. My question is, if I assume this, Allah created the laws, and once the laws are there, they are able to operate. If I assume that, I would say, this is the only thing I am interested in anyway. Who cares who put the laws in place? Because when I need water, when I need rain, I will operate within the realm of these causes, right? The natural laws. I don't need to invoke God at all. I just play the game by the rules and rain comes. If I'm sick, for instance, I take the medicine and I get better. Whether I think God created it or not, who cares? If I'm sick, I get medicine, I get better. That's the only thing I care. If you tell me that, but there's God, I would say, okay, if you want to believe, who cares? But I don't need it, I would say. And you don't need it either.
But it is like being thankful for something. For example, you don't have something and then you get it. Even if the means don't concern you, you'll still be thankful to Allah. For example, you just ate food. You're thankful to Allah for food. You just had water. You're thankful to Allah for water. But is there a necessity for you to go through all that process and say that everything in that process is through Allah?
So I would say, why would you thank to Allah? What happens if you don't thank?
For example, if I don't eat, I'll starve and like Allah is giving me everything. So that's how I'm being.
No. My question from the other, the end. We eat food. That's the only thing we have. We eating food. You thank Allah. I don't thank Allah. What changes? The food satisfies you. Food satisfies me. You are not hungry. I'm not hungry. What is the difference?
You will go to heaven.
One day. I mean, if I, hang out with these rich people who are trying to find the cure for, the aging, maybe I will not die. I'm a good scientist. Maybe I will find the cure myself.
It changes your internal experience.
Microphone, please.
I don't want to say much. I just want to say like I don't know if you think about it, like even people who don't believe in God, like have success, and it's sometimes like you think about it and you're like, oh, well, like I'm worshiping and I'm getting like the same things as they are and they don't even worship, so what's the point? And I think like it changes your internal experience, and you can sort of like tie it to like the last thing, the last sentence where it's like, it saves the heart from utter desolation and the spirit from aching sorrow. So I feel like that's the point, like you can still think, oh, rain happens because of the hydrological cycle, but, ascribing it to God changes how you think about it and how you feel about it. And I feel like it just strengthens your own like iman and helps you in these ways.
How about you thank to the beautiful, what is it? Mother Nature. You are thankful to Mother Nature, all these sacred spirits of my past. You can attain such a, spiritual pleasure, can't you? Author says you cannot, but he says so.
So going back, sorry. For example, Dr. Yusuf mentioned how he like gives to his children, and then
he what?
He gives something to his children.
Okay.
And his children kind of feel like they're happy for something, or they're thankful. Or for example, as a human being, I get something and I'm thankful for it. And for example, if I start thinking about rain, for example, I have a farm and I need rain and I get rain. There's a whole physiology, like the process is there, that natural process that Allah set in. But I'm still thankful. And then I say, look, okay, this rain didn't come by itself. It was the rules were set in place by Allah, and that's how the rain came. Is that thinking still wrong, or is that right? Like
again, like I would say, if when I set a rule, and after setting these rules, everything, operates by themselves, I would say if you include Allah, it would be something extra, like extra. If you are happy with this, like, I ate the cake, you ate the cake and put some, icing as well. If you prefer it that way, I would say, okay, eat it that way. But if I'm happy with just the cake, I take the cake. If this is the case, like if just two options, then it's not a belief, it's just option. But according to author, it's not that way. Author says you cannot do anything, you cannot explain anything without Allah. In our example, for instance, it seems we can explain at least part of it. We cannot explain the rules without Allah, but it seems we can explain what happens after the rules. Go ahead, please.
So I'm looking at the sentence that says, once, we look at the phrase, La ilaha illallah, the spirit finds a place of recourse, a source of help, through which is open to it the door of a treasury of mercy that will guarantee all its needs. So I guess it's about when I experience the rain, how does my experience of this rain, can it provide a source of treasury of a mercy that guarantees all of my other needs? For example, I eat a strawberry, right? We had two examples. Let's say the Muslim eats the strawberry and the non-Muslim, the atheist, eats the strawberry. They both enjoy it. They both get the satisfaction of it, the vitamins of it, the whatever of it, right? But what's the difference? And I guess how I understand it is that when I eat the strawberry, if I recognize that it is coming, that its source of existence is also my source of existence, is also my sustainer, who has given me this physical need to be satisfied by a strawberry or some other food, but also all of these other human needs, right? I want to be happy in my work life. I want to be happy in my school life. I want to be happy in my relationships. I want contentment. I want joy. I don't want to age. I want all my faculties, my strength, my intellect. I want to hold on to all of these things that seem to be slipping away. And I want peace and contentment in all aspects of my life, right? I think that if when I eat that strawberry, if eating that strawberry becomes a means through which I recognize that the one who gave that strawberry also gave me that hunger and that want and that liking for the strawberry, is also the one who gave me all of these other needs that I just mentioned, then when I eat that strawberry, I say, oh, I wanted a strawberry, he gave it. Just like he fulfilled this need, he must be the one to fulfill all of my other needs. So it's a very sort of simple act of eating a strawberry. At the moment I eat a strawberry and I recognize that it's coming from my creator, then suddenly, like my need for eternity, all my other existential needs, right? All the sort of expectations that I have as a human being from my existence also become satisfied. I become sort of cognizant of the promise that comes with that strawberry. So I guess going back to the rain example as well, and this isn't a sort of comprehensive, I'm just sharing my thoughts from this discussion, is that if I recognize that that rain is from my creator, my sustainer, then it doesn't become just rain. It becomes a source of mercy. I say the one who is giving this rain is meeting a certain need of mine, which might be to drink water, to have coolness in the air, to have plants that grow, right? Is also going to be the one who fulfills all of these other needs of mine. It gives a sort of indicator that I'm not left to myself. I'm not left to sources that are blind to me, that don't know me. If I assign it to certain natural laws or natural forces, they don't have any knowledge of me. They don't know me in any sort of intimate sense, right? They don't have that knowledge of me. They don't have the power to help me in my life in all the other facets. There's no consciousness there. There's no will. Like for the farmer, the rain comes and his crops grow. That's great. But what about the next season? Natural forces or natural laws, like these things can't guarantee or can't give that sense of security that he needs, not just for the next season, but all the other facets of his life as well. So when I interact with the rain, when I interact with the strawberry, it shouldn't be just providing me what I need in that moment, but it should be a sort of loaded message that says, whoever has created you with all of your needs, right? This is an indication, like my spirit should find a place of recourse, a source of help that guarantees all my needs. I'm sorry if that was a little convoluted.
No, Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. So, who?
Yeah, I think I shouldn't have covered what I was like. No, I'm sure there's more. I'll just like shorten it because that was essentially kind of along the lines of. No, yeah, I was just going to like ask the question of, yes, perhaps like it's fine for me to just know about these natural laws, like perhaps they did come from like a creator, but do I like need to know that in my everyday life? Perhaps not. But then I think about sort of, as Aisha was saying, like all my different needs and the fact that I am created with all, or like at least I have all these needs. And I think to myself, well, what can these natural laws even do for me? Can they guarantee any of these needs? Are they actually thinking about me? Do they have any sort of consciousness to guarantee that, for example, for the rain, will it actually come down as water? Will it be clean water that I can drink? Is it thinking about me in the extent that it's going to fall like right in front of me, produce like a puddle of pure clean water for me to drink from? And no, it doesn't act like that. So just like Aishinur was saying, like these things in and of themselves don't provide me any security whatsoever because they have no I can tell that they have no knowledge of me because they don't act in a way that benefits me specifically. So they don't like these things don't know my needs because they are also like part of this creation. Like we're all kind of on this earth together. So yeah, that's basically.
Jazakallah. Sure, please.
Thank you.
I think ascribing godliness to nature is sort of part of the process. So it's sort of the same as, I mean, that's essentially what Prophet Ibrahim did, where he was like, oh, the sun, look at it, so big, so mighty, maybe this is my God. So I feel like nature is sort of the same way, because you think of it like, oh, like, look at all these beautiful things that I'm seeing, look at these processes that are just amazing. Maybe this is my God. But then, and I think that's important, and that like sort of kind of fulfills or like starts to fulfill a need, because it is a need of ours to find a creator, and to know that it's not just us. So I feel like it starts to get there. But then just like Prophet Ibrahim saw the sun setting and was like, oh, this is not sufficient. In the same way, you realize neither is Mother Nature, So for example, now, especially with climate change, it's so funny how it's just like literally all the same, because we're like, oh, we need to protect Mother Nature, if that's our sustainer, if that's our God. Yeah, exactly. That's literally how it was with the idols. Like, why do you have to protect them? And it's the same way with Mother Nature, because, it's dying now. But also I feel like it doesn't, and we were talking about this today in the Quran class, about how one of our most important needs is the need for eternal life. We're very scared of death. We want to live forever. And consciousness is a beautiful thing in and of itself. So we want to stay conscious and we want to know what's next. And that isn't being fulfilled by nature, because if you die, you can't live again, So I feel like it's important to have a God that can give you birth again after giving you death. So I feel like that sort of is where like a huge need of ours gets its fulfillment, which is why I feel like it's important to think of a creator who can sort of give you life the first time and then also again and again.
So very beautiful. Like you said, nature cannot give this. So let's go back and look at what nature can give. La ilaha, right? So if it is ilah or not, we have to look at it. And when I say nature, I'm talking about, we talk about, these natural laws and so on and so forth. So we have to look now, because Zerrin gave us this as a candidate, right? She said, but how about the natural laws? Maybe they are doing the rain, like giving us the rain. So she gave us the candidate. She said, this is your ilah. Now we cannot say, no, Allah. We have to say, La ilaha. So now we have to show that these natural laws cannot give rain, or actually cannot give anything. As Quran says, neither can benefit nor harm. It means cannot do anything. Anything. So one example this author gives, very beautiful, we might discuss this before. So it talks about the buildings, but does everybody are familiar with IKEA, the store, the furniture store? So
I thought that was a restaurant.
You buy your, the furniture. Okay, you go with your wife, you buy the furniture, and then it comes with the booklet, right? What is it? Manual. It has all the instructions how to do the furniture, right? And you start building it. It's too hard, of course. You start building it. You put it, the one part, another part, drawers, the doors, whatever, everything according to book. You follow the manual step by step, not missing anything. And then the furniture is there. And your wife comes, says, oh, thank you, manual. You did it. Like, what is wrong? The manual is there, laws are there, and they are set, right? And the furniture is there, and your wife is thinking to manual, the laws, and I follow them. According to this, this rain example, for instance, there is nothing wrong with it, because you don't need a husband to build the furniture. Once the rules are set, once the laws are there, you don't need a husband, or vice versa. Wife, doesn't matter, right? You don't need either of them. Laws are there, the rules are there, right? The same thing. The law of gravity is written somewhere, if there is such a law. Let's assume there is. It is written somewhere, and I look at rain, the drop coming down, and I say, thank you, gravity. Thank you, manual. I didn't answer who brings it down. Whether he or she or it following the manual or not, this is not the discussion. The discussion is who is bringing down. And when we say gravity, it's not anything different than manual did the furniture. So there's an action there, right? There's something exists, the movement. And laws or rules or manuals, they're just, imaginary things, like imaginary meaning not, fairy tale, the abstract things. They don't have external reality, existence, just like the manual. And I'm not talking about the booklet, the instructions. Instructions, they cannot do anything. They cannot move the parts. They cannot move the raindrop. So the author gives the similar example, says, you go to a beautiful building or a palace, and you start questioning, who did this? Who built the palace? And somebody gives you the blueprints, the everything drawer, the technical drawings and so on, and says, this is what it, this is the source of the building. It doesn't make sense, right? The same thing, the laws, whether they are there or not, doesn't matter. They cannot move the drop. So this is the La ilaha thing. And we have to see this. Without seeing this, without saying La ilaha, going back to your question, why do we have to, to learn La ilaha? Because if you don't see that the laws cannot move the raindrop, you would say, okay, I already explained, I have the laws, and rain drops like it goes down, there is nothing to be explained because you didn't la ilaha part, meaning you didn't see that the laws cannot move it, cannot do anything.
But
Go ahead, please.
since we have biology people here, what are you going to say about DNA? It's a law written in the nucleus, and it duplicates and produces protein and does everything, and here you are.
Alhamdulillah. You want to say something? Yeah, please.
I was just telling Sarah, I feel like it's the same thing as a blueprint. Like essentially that's what DNA is. So I feel like it's going back to Birkan's example of thanking the blueprint for building something. I think it's the same principle with DNA, because in my mind, it's.
I mean, if you look from the information perspective, yes, it is. But the difference is the DNA has an external reality now. It is something that you can touch, right? So the
Written over a paper. Like it's the booklet now.
Yeah.
And then the example, it's the booklet.
So it has this physical reality as well. So, or put it that way, maybe another example. So, for instance, the laws of physics cannot move this spoon, right? But how about my finger? It can move. So this is now another candidate. With DNA, I guess they are come together. It has physical entity and so on and so forth. So it becomes a cause, right?
I guess in this case, what actually I am saying when I say DNA does this is, again, I'm imagining a certain thing, but what is DNA? DNA is simply, again, a sequence of bases, which is actually a sequence of particles and whatnot. It's not a single entity in and of itself, but I am imagining it to have a collective personality, which is DNA. At the end of the day, they are just individual particles that are put together. And now when I say DNA does something, I am imagining this individual pieces which are put together to be doing something actually. What am I saying? Yeah, if I imagine about that, what am I saying? Because there's no single entity over there. It's a collective thing. Now I am imagining some sort of a consciousness and willpower and whatnot with which it gets into action because now it's unfolding and it's doing this and that. Wherever I see a motion, wherever I see a new being, so DNA unfolding, let's say, is a new being. Something was not there and now it is being in action in there. How did this happen? I have to ask the question. How did it move in the first place? How is this first change happen in the first place? Because it was not supposed to happen. It was just standing there. Like if I take it to Birkan's example, let's say it's printed over the booklet. So it's now a physical existence as well. I have it printed over the book. But we know that this booklet is never going to take a hammer to its hand and start putting things together and whatnot. That change would never happen. If the moment a tiny change happens, because change means creation or existence, I have to ask the question, how did this change or the existence came into being? There was nothing to create something anew over there. Likewise, in the case of DNA, like even if the tiniest move happens, like unfolding, this is how things start happening, right? A creation is now at place. Something that was not is now is over there. So from non-existence to existence is taking place. How did this happen?
Who moved?
What moved
That's
it?
the question. You have to answer this question. So going back to Kadir's question, whether it is wrong or not, what is wrong with this explanation? It's not about whether it is like a seen or not. The question is whether can it do it or not.
Actually, there is no explanation. The problem is there is no explanation there. I mean, we need to ask the question, what do you mean in the first place by natural law? This is what Birkan was doing in here. Said, Kadir, you know what you mean by natural law? You mean that booklets, not even the booklet, but just the instructions. Does instructions do anything? You would say no. Then there's no further conversation there, right? Because we imagine a collective personality for these laws and we attribute some sort of an action to them. But once you question, what do you mean in the first place? You realize that, well, actually, I didn't mean anything. I didn't know what I was talking about. This is why we need to dig deeper. A lot of things are being hidden behind those words. This is why I gave the example of light converts to electricity. It sounds like a single word, converts. What do you mean by converts? There was no light before, and there is no electricity after. So something was there, something is not there anymore. So something become non-existent, something become existent afterwards. This is creation. So where did it go? How did it go? How did this come into being? Must be the question. So sometimes we use those words, nature creates or physical laws or natural laws does something. The proper question is, what do you mean by that in the first place? Rather than saying, would it make sense or not, or what's wrong with that? In the maybe more proper question, the first question is, what do you mean by that in the first place? This is another memorized or inherited answer that we give Actually, this is some sort of inherited quote unquote faith that we inherit from our science teacher now. It's another type of like we Muslims believe in Allah, we scientists believe in natural law. It is equally dogmatic and it doesn't have any basis or conviction element in it. It is just that this is, but once you start digging it deeper, you realize that this doesn't explain anything. Actually, it doesn't mean anything in this sense.
We have to stop, but with your, inshallah, beautiful question, comment, we will
But
stop.
the question is, so,
Oh, okay, with yours, we will stop. Okay, alhamdulillah.
but the question is, say I tell you that positive attracts negative, right? And
So,
then
sorry?
I tell you that positive attracts negative.
Okay.
So I establish 2 plates, but I can show it. So I put 2 plates, they're not charged. I drop an electron, nothing happens. Now I charge a plate and the electron moves towards that positive thing. Now, when I don't charge it, it doesn't happen. But when I do charge it, it does happen. So how do I not at least come under the illusion that the positive attracts negative?
Do you want to answer or? Okay. Why it's nasty? Oh, okay.
I can give it to
I just wanted to make a comment on what Dua was saying about the Mother Nature and it being an idol. And, that reminded me of, when the Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he conquered Mecca, he went to the Kaaba and he demolished all the idols. So I feel like we, as Muslims, we might need to adopt accelerationism and destroy the earth to kill the modern idol, for the sake of Tawheed.
I apologize for that. That's a beautiful concluding remark. Alhamdulillah. But no. Although this is a joke, like we should adapt this, destroying the idols part, because we have to accept at least this. We've been keep living with our idols happily. Okay? We would say, okay, they don't bother me, we don't bother them, and so on. We have to destroy them for sure. Thank you for reminding us that. We will come to there. So let's conclude. So I hope at least it's becoming clear. I'm not expecting that it is clear. I hope that it's becoming clear that what I mean when I say we have to start from La ilaha, right? We get one example, the natural law. And instead of saying that, whether it is shirk or not, whether, it is sin or not, we said, let's forget about it and ask the question, whether natural law can give rise to anything or not. So that's the idea of La ilaha. Take the candidate idol and, judge it. Whether, what you have as the outcome, what you have is the input, the instructions, the furniture. And let's see whether, they balance out. And when you see that it does not, you say, La ilaha. The sun sets. It cannot be my Rabb. And then other candidates come, like the things themselves, for instance, or some causes, like you negatively charge an electron, and now you are saying that the electron attracts it. Now, right? It's not natural law. Another candidate, maybe electron does it, or maybe DNA does it. So we have to do La ilaha with them as well. Next week, inshallah, we will continue with the rain and talk about the raindrops themselves, for instance. But for now, let's conclude, inshallah. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha.